To my dear brothers of 100 Black Men of Metro Atlanta, let me salute you on something that is so critical and so vital for our community, which is the rearing and the raising of our young black boys. It is the undocumented, most endangered species in this nation. Eagles, owls, and even whiteback whales get federal protection. But black men can get killed with there being absolutely no consequence. The saying goes that the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. But I want to say to 100 black men, the hand that takes the hand of another young man changes the world. While we're in Atlanta today, 2020, I wanted you to get in a time capsule with me and go back to Vienna in 1947. And if we went back there, we would find something that is absolutely unseemly and downright barbaric. Vienna is the home of Brahms, Beethoven, Bach, but of lesser notoriety of Dr. Samuels. At the time, he was the lead surgeon of the Vienna General Hospital, the world's leading hospital of the 19th century, far exceeding Johns Hopkins or even Emory University. He was frustrated with his profession because 1 out of 6 women who were admitted for delivery ended up dying. Did you hear that? 1 out of 6 women who came in for delivery, they ended up dying. One by one, the autopsies were written that the cause of death was labor fever. Amazingly, the doctors would leave the autopsy room and go right back into the maternity ward. They were going conducting internal exams with no intermission from the autopsy. The rank reality is that their hands had been in pus, blood, and smothered in dead bodies. And then those same hands would go into the uterus of pregnant women. And they did all of it without ever washing their hands. Nobody even considered the transfer of bacteria because scientists blamed epidemics on atmospheric conditions or cosmic influences. Dr. Samuel had the epiphany and the theory. Somebody bring me a basin. I want somebody to bring me a basin. Why? So I can wash my hands. So that I will not be found guilty of bringing labor fever to the delivery room. He realized, Dr. Samuel did, that the filth on the doctor's hands is what was killing the patients. Psalm 22, verses 4 and 5 says, "He who has clean hands and a pure heart will receive blessings from the Lord." It's not just about my heart, but you got to ask yourself, where have my hands been? And there are too many dirty hands that are going into the delivery room. My dear brothers, as we approach this election cycle of 2020, it is very important that we would realize that there are a lot of bloody hands that are trying to strangle our vote. Bloody hands that even while we speak in the midst of this gathering, they're going through inner city communities and taking away mailboxes. Bloody hands that would, in fact, push for public schools to remain open, even while elected officials have their own children sequestered at home with private instruction. Bloody hands that are dripping even from the highest levels of government. The gentleman, just 72 hours ago, it was just announced from the administration that Georgia leads the United States of America in COVID-19 cases. And yet, when you get out of this program and conclude this ceremony, Lenox Mall is still open. The flea market is open. Your barbershop is open. Massage parlors are open, and later on tonight, the club will be open because there are a lot of dirty hands that are at stake. There's a little kid who we find in the Bible, a young man. He's the son of a king, and the enemy has come to devour him because he is next in line to ascend to the throne. And while he's next in line to ascend to the throne, there is an unrelenting attack. And his nanny picks him up, running for cover, trying to make sure that she survives his life and protects his crown. And in her haste, she drops him. And the Bible records he's crippled in both of his feet because he's maimed by somebody who's supposed to look out for him. Regrettably, so many of the young men who are assembled today have been dropped, have been wounded, have been dismissed by the same people who were supposed to protect, provide, serve, nurture, and even develop. Those hands are so important that we found out on March the 9th from Dr. Fauci and from CDC alongside the World Health Organization that to stop the communicable disease known as COVID-19, that you've got to incessantly wash your hands. Enough data has not come back for us to be able to find the trail of breadcrumbs as to how it is that so many Georgians have had their lives cut off prematurely, who today find themselves heaving for breath on ventilators, waiting anxiously in waiting rooms for an open bed. And because it's been a hot, long, drawn-out summer, might I posit to you, gentlemen, that the transfer did not come from droplets of sneezing. It did not come from hacking in close proximity. But the transfer that has happened is because of dirty hands. What it is that the 100 black men provide and offer to young black men across this nation is hands that they can trust. So many of our grandfathers who were robbed of the opportunity of higher education, were robbed of getting capital to start businesses, were met with posters of a picture of Uncle Sam pointed in their direction while they were yet in high school, saying that Uncle Sam wants you. And Uncle Sam wanted our black men to fight on the front lines. But when they came back home and did not have access to capital, access to fair housing, access to higher education, many of whom found themselves strung out on heroin, who found themselves maimed because of landmines, found themselves fighting the nightmares of PTSD. They saw that that finger was no longer pointing at them, saying, "We want you." I'm so grateful that you have found in your grasp hands that you can trust, hands that want to see you develop, grow, and to become the men that God has ordained you to be. I got to give you a news flash. Outside of Adam, nobody is ever born a man. I got to give that to you again. Outside of Adam, nobody is ever born a man. You always have to grow into one. It is a process. It is a journey. It is not a ceremony. So what it is that you are completing today is just one truck stop on the road towards maturity. I grieve that in our community and our culture, there is nothing commensurate of a bar mitzvah. In the Jewish community, when young boys turn 12, I don't know whether you realize it or not, but when young boys turn 12 in the Jewish community, immediately they are bestowed and blessed with property. At 12 years of age, they are given their own accounts. At 12 years of age, they're able to read and to recite the sacred Torah. At 12 years of age, they sit down and understand the culture and the budget of the house. That's what happens in Jewish communities to become a man. Regrettably, in our community, too many are just handed a gun, a condom, and access to pornography, and are told this is your manhood. What it is that you have received over these last couple of weeks is the training ground that so many of us as men wish we had when we were boys trying to become men. I'm a preacher of the gospel. And because I'm a preacher of the gospel, the foundation of who it is that I am is rooted in a man by the name of Jesus Christ. And I want to tell you something about him, no matter what it is, your faith walk or journey. But what I want you to know about him is that when he was born in a manger, born in the projects, he, like some of you, were born to teenage parents. His biological father, Joseph, had no degrees, never went to Morehouse, never went to Clark, never went to Howard. He was a blue-collar, hard-working man who was able to make it by the sweat of his brow. He was raised, and here's what we find out about him. He's working in the family business. And I don't want you to become weary or disillusioned that you still don't know your assignment or your gift. It wasn't until Jesus was 30 that he knew what he was supposed to do. Amazingly, young men, from 0 to 30, he was in the wrong job, in the wrong profession, in the wrong occupation. He did his job from 30 until 33, performing miracles, raising the dead, feeding thousands. And at 33, he finds himself crucified for sinners like you and me. I want to jump over that, and I want to drag you to a part of Scripture that seems befitting in this moment. It's after he was crucified and after he rose again. He's walking through town trying to gather his disciples, and you're not going to believe it, he bumps into a brother. He bumps into a brother by the name of Thomas, who doubts who it is that he says he is. And young men, I want you to know that no matter what you accomplish, what you achieve, what you go through, there will always be those who doubt who you are. Doubt your merit, doubt your value, doubt your significance. Can you imagine that Kamala Harris has gone to the highest rank of any black woman in history, and people are still questioning her blackness? No matter where you go or how high you esteem, somebody is going to question you. And while Jesus is walking after enduring all of the barbarism of the cross, Thomas, who knows him, walks up on him and says, I want to believe, but it's hard for me to believe. And Jesus does something significant. He holds out his hand, the same hand that had a rustic nail go through it 2 days prior. Amazingly, he holds out that hand that's been in a grave for 3 days. He holds out that hand that had been spit upon. And nowhere from crucifixion to resurrection does Jesus ever get an opportunity to wash his hands. And here's what we note about Thomas, is Thomas never touches his hand, but his heart is touched. My dear young men, I want you to understand that whatever has tried to kill you will not contaminate you. I don't care whether or not your dad is in jail or on drugs or in the street or completely absent. That is not who you are. Today, the 100 black men extend their hands to you, understanding that as men, you are not looking for a hand out. You just want a hand up. And so today I wanted to pause to extend my hand to you, to congratulate you, because all of you are men. Langston Hughes' most famous poem was Mother to Son. And where it is that we hear in the voice of a black mother, don't you sit down there on them stairs, because times have been hard. Life for you, it ain't been no crystal stair, but eyes still climbing. When it is that you rise, take somebody else by the hand, lift them up, and do it with no strings attached. Because just as you have made it, I want you to help somebody else survive, somebody else succeed, somebody else achieve. And the only thing that I'm asking that you do is that you keep your hands clean. God bless you, and I'm proud of you.